How did you end up meeting Leth? So the first time I met him purely as a fan and had him sign a controller, and I asked him what kind of controller he used. And then I bought that controller, and that's the kind of controller I've been using ever since. Then I worked in television in a past life in like local news, and I hated it. I hated it. And dude, okay, I gotta pause because you know why I hated it. My first like year and a half, I was a promotions producer, and this was like right out of high school. I did like a technical, like a vocational technical program during high school. And then I took a gap year to see if I could get a job. Got the job in TV. And in my first year and a half, I made a promo that got nominated for a Mid-Atlantic Emmy Award. So regional Emmy, not like the big Emmys that you watch on TV, but still a fucking regional Emmy nomination my first year. And I was like, okay, bet. So I went in and I was like, hey, I know that you guys hired me at a cheap hourly rate because I just had a high school no experience, and I just happened to have like a connection and like a little bit of a crummy portfolio. So I was like, how about a raise? I've proved my worth. I literally got our station nominated for an Emmy. And that battle lasted like weeks to try and get a raise. And they were like, yeah, here is 20 cents an hour raise. And I was like, okay, well, that's fucked. So that pissed me off. And then I shit you not, like 2 weeks later, we had this meeting, and like, I don't know if you know this, but like local news stations, like 95% of them or something crazy like that are owned by like one of like a handful of companies. So we had this meeting where the CEO of like the giga national company that owned our station like came on the TV and was like, hello, I'd like to thank you for the first time making our company surpass $1 billion in fucking, I don't know if it was probably revenue, obviously probably not profit, but like, it was like, thank you for making us $1 billion company. And I was like, I just fucking had to beg for weeks for like crumbs of a raise. And at that point, I mentally was just checked out. I was like, fuck this. That's crazy. That got me so mad, especially because like I moved into a commercial producer role. So I was like writing the bills to clients, and I was seeing what we were billing them versus what I was getting paid. And I was like, I would rather just leave and work for myself. Like I wouldn't even have to work the same amount of hours to get, that's naive thinking, by the way, but like thinking like, oh, I don't even have to work the same amount of hours to make what I make here getting these crumbs if I'm writing the bill myself. So I started looking for freelance work, and this all does tie back into me meeting Leth, by the way. And I was watching a Rizzo stream, and he was looking for an editor, so I donated him $5, and I was like, yo, I heard you're looking for an editor. Like I have actual experience, and I had made a couple of my own like Rocket League videos. Like I did like some tutorials and stuff. And that ended up working out, and I worked on the Rizzo live channel from like 0 to like 80K subs. And somewhere along that journey, Leth tweeted out and was like, hey, I'm looking for an editor for a like stream highlights channel, and like was like, maybe Rizzo live editor like wants to double dip, and people tagged me in response to his tweet, and then me and him started talking, and I did his live channel for a little bit, and then he liked my thumbnails, so I was doing his live channel and his thumbnails for a bit, and then he also really liked my editing, so then I took over the editing, and then he didn't want to pursue the live channel in the same capacity, so I became thumbnail designer and editor, and then free to play happened and everything kaboomed, and the rest is history, and that's why I've been here. That's exactly why I don't get out of my way at work anymore. Not worth the effort, dude. That's what I'm saying. I literally had to. I proved my worth. Like the only thing further I could have done to prove my worth was actually winning the Emmy. By the way, which is like people spend their entire careers just trying to get a nomination, let alone winning one. So I was like, that definitely deserves a raise, because I wasn't hired based off of my rate. Wasn't based off my skill. My rate was low. Like my hourly pay was low because I was no degree. You know, was hired off of a good word from my teacher who taught the vocational program because he used to work there as a sportscaster. So I was like, I know they based my pay like off the fact that they're taking a risk on me. So I was like, here's my proof give me a raise, and then I had to beg for scraps, and then just had get like it felt like in my face, like, oh, thanks for making us $1 billion company, you get nothing. And that just pissed me off so much. I actually left before securing any work, which was really dumb. And I am incredibly lucky that it worked out. But if I could go back, I would not have left without having something lined up ahead of time. It was actually so interesting. I love the backstory. It's long road to explain that basically the way I met Leth is he was like, yo, does Rizzo's live editor want to double dip? But I felt like the backstory was necessary. And I mean, I couldn't be happier. I say I wouldn't, if I could do it again, I wouldn't have left without a plan, but it worked out. Do you edit for Rizzo anymore? No, I haven't edited for Rizzo since like early 2020. I think. Because it hit a point where like once I got on to doing daily edits and thumbnails for Leth, I was also working for Rizzo, and it was just too overwhelming to do both at the time. Damn. So I ended up just ending things with Rizzo after a little while of doing both because it was just too much. And from the jump with Leth, it's been very much of like an equal partnership type of deal. Like I've never felt like just editor man. And so I was like, if I have to pick one of these, like working for Leth was more work and more income, because more work equal more income. So having to drop one, I had to drop Rizzo just because I couldn't handle that kind of workload at the time. Now I'm so much more efficient and experienced that I actually could definitely handle that. I was doing shitload of work. 2023 was insane workload wise for me. Actual friends rather than just colleagues. Yeah. But nowadays I could definitely handle multiple things like that. Like last year, I was obviously still doing the editing and thumbnails for Leth, but then I was also managing Emong's YouTube channels and his like team of editors and stuff. He has 3 channels. So I was doing daily edits for Leth, and then I was managing Emong's team of editors, which didn't require a lot of editing myself. It was more like planning and management. And then I was also doing stuff for Siegel, who's also like former Overwatch pro and stuff. So I was doing all 3 at once, and that was like the most I've ever worked in my life. Like it was like 50, 60, 70 hour weeks every single week for like a full year. And then things fizzled out with Siegel, which is totally chill. And then with Emong, things were like fantastic, but the workload was still so much and it was a lot of pressure. So right before my son was born, I ended up stopping managing for Emong, which was definitely the right call because I was at a place where like my whole life was just working. You know what I mean? So I stopped managing for Emong when my son was born. And then after like a month or two, I just hit Emong back up. I was like, hey, if you guys have any room for editing, let me know. Cause like now with my kid having that, like that kind of workload is too much, but being able to just like get work here and there from Emong is like ideal for my situation. So now I edit for Emong a handful of times a month. But yeah, so there's my whole work history basically. It's really great, and now it also leaves time for me to stream on my own. So I basically pushed my workload to its absolute limits, and then have now revised it down to a balance point, and I'm happy. Other than that, I like to fucking hang out and vibe.